Your 6-year-old locked outside in freezing weather, banging on the door, and the parents keep eating. That's not discipline. So why does he feel planned?
The knocking wouldn't stop. Small fists, weak, frantic, hitting the door while my dad calmly took another bite of dinner. I'm Sylvia. I'm sitting at the table with my parents, and just a few feet away, on the other side of that door, is my 6-year-old sister, Elvira, outside in the freezing cold. She's crying, begging to be let in, her voice shaking so hard I can barely understand her. And my parents? They don't even look up. My dad just says she needs to learn, like leaving her out there in the snow is some kind of lesson. I reach for my phone instead of the door, not to call them out, but to call someone else. Because as Elvira's voice suddenly goes quiet, I hear something else in the distance, getting closer. At first, I think I imagined it. The wind has been howling all night, rattling the windows, pushing snow against the glass in uneven bursts. But then I hear it again, faint, rhythmic, not the wind, sirens. I glance toward the door. The knocking hasn't come back yet. That's what scares me the most. Elvira never stops crying, not like this. Even when she's in trouble, even when she's scared, she makes noise. She calls for me. Eat! My mom says sharply, like she can feel my attention slipping. She still hasn't turned around. Her posture is straight, controlled, like nothing unusual is happening. I don't move. My dad finally looks up, not at the door, but at me. Don't start, he says, his voice low. Not angry, just warning. That's how it always is. Not loud, not chaotic, just final. Outside, a weak thud hits the door again, then a scratch. Sil. Elvira's voice barely forms my name. My chest tightens so hard it almost hurts. I press my thumb harder against my phone screen, keeping my voice just above a whisper. Yes, I say quietly. She's still outside. There's a pause on the other end. I listen, my eyes locked on the door. How long? The voice asks. I swallow. Too long. The sirens are louder now, close enough that my dad hears them too. His fork pauses midair, just for a second. Then he sets it down slowly. What did you do? My mom asks, finally turning to look at me. I don't answer. Instead, I stand up. The chair legs scrape loudly against the floor, breaking the strange, controlled silence they've been holding on to all night. I can feel both of them watching me now, but not like before. This time, there's something else in their faces, something uncertain. Another sound cuts through the room, louder than before. Not knocking, not crying. A sharp, deliberate pound against the front door.
If she really called for help, why isn't she opening the door herself? And how did they get here fast?
And it's not coming from Elvira. The second knock is louder, controlled, official. It doesn't sound anything like Elvira. My dad pushes his chair back slowly, the legs dragging across the floor in a long, sharp scrape. For the first time tonight, he looks unsure. Not panicked, just recalculating. Stay here, he says, standing up. But I don't move. I'm already watching him too closely. The sirens outside fade into silence, replaced by the low hum of an idling engine. Lights flicker faintly through the curtains, blue and red bleeding into the room in uneven pulses. My mom stands now too, her composure cracking just slightly. Sylvia, she says, quieter this time. Who did you call? I meet her eyes, but I don't answer. Not yet. Another knock. Shorter this time, impatient. My dad walks toward the door, but instead of opening it, he stops just short of the handle. His eyes shift towards the side window, like he's trying to see who's out there without being seen. Behind him, the back door, the one Elvira is locked behind, stays shut. She's still out there, I say. It's not loud, but it lands. He ignores me, or tries to. Go sit down, he mutters, reaching for the handle. But I step forward, not aggressively, not loudly, just enough to place myself between him and the door for half a second, long enough. You said she needed to learn, I remind him, my voice steady. So why rush now? His jaw tightens. That calm mask he's been holding all night slips, just a little. My mom steps closer, her voice sharper now. This isn't funny. If you called someone... I didn't do anything you didn't already do, I cut in. That's when the third knock hits, hard. Open the door, a voice calls from outside. Firm, adult, not asking. Everything freezes. My dad looks at me again, but this time it's different. He's not warning me anymore. He's trying to figure out how much I've already said. Slowly, he turns the handle. The door opens just a crack at first. Cold air rushes in immediately, sharp and biting, slipping past him into the warm house. Snow swirls at the threshold. Then he opens it wider, and whatever he sees makes him step back instantly. Not a flinch, not hesitation. A full step back, like he wasn't expecting this. Behind him, I finally see it too. Dark uniforms, heavy coats, and someone stepping forward with a badge already raised. But they don't come in yet. Not until one of them asks a single question. Where is the child? The question hangs in the air, heavy, sharp, impossible to ignore. Where is the child? My dad opens his mouth, but nothing comes out at first. For once, he doesn't have an immediate answer, no controlled explanation ready to go. His eyes flick toward the hallway, then toward the back of the house. I don't wait. She's outside, I say. Every head turns to me. The officer's expression changes instantly, focused, urgent. He steps past my dad without asking, boots thudding against the floor as cold air floods in behind him. Another follows, already speaking into a radio. 6-year-old female, outside exposure. Send medical. My mom rushes forward, her voice rising. It's not like that. She's fine. She was just... But no one stops. The back door comes into view, still shut, still locked. One of the officers grabs the handle, yanks. It doesn't move. Unlock it, he snaps. My dad hesitates. Just for a second. That's all it takes. The officer doesn't ask again. He reaches past him, flips the lock, and throws the door open. A blast of freezing air tears through the house. Snow scatters across the floor. The wind howls louder now, like it's been waiting to get in. And then I see her. Elvira is curled near the step. Small. Too small. Her coat half slipping off one shoulder. She's not knocking anymore, not crying, not moving much at all. Hey! Hey! I've got you! The officer says, dropping down beside her, carefully lifting her up. She's shaking but weakly, like she's running out of energy to even do that. Another officer is already inside with blankets, wrapping them around her, speaking quickly, calmly, but faster than before. Behind me, my mom's voice cracks. She's okay. She's okay. She just needed to calm down. No, the officer cuts in, not even looking at her. She didn't. The room feels completely different now. Not quiet, not controlled. Everything is moving. Radios crackle, boots shift, doors stay open, cold air keeps pouring in. And my dad, he hasn't said a word. He's just staring at Elvira, at the officers, at me, trying to piece it together, trying to understand how this stopped being something he could control. One of the officers turns back toward them, his tone firm, final. Step away from the child. And that's when the woman behind them, who hasn't spoken yet, finally steps forward, holding a folder close to her chest. She looks directly at my parents, not confused, not surprised, prepared. We've received prior reports, she says evenly. Then her eyes shift to me. And we've been waiting for confirmation. The room doesn't slow down. It tightens. We've been waiting for confirmation. My dad's head snaps toward me so fast it's almost a reflex. What does that mean? He demands, his voice louder now, but it doesn't carry the same weight as before. It doesn't stop anything. The woman doesn't answer him. She steps further inside, already scanning the room like she's been here before, in her head 100 times. Her eyes land on the dining table, the untouched plates, the still warm food, then drift toward the back door, still wide open, letting the cold spill in. Ma'am, sir, one of the officers says, positioning himself between them and Elvira, I'm going to need you both to step back. Now. My mom shakes her head quickly. This is being blown out of proportion. She spilled something. We disciplined her, that's all. Outside? The officer cuts in. In this weather? She falters, just for a second. And that's all it takes. Across the room, Elvira lets out a weak sound, not quite a word, more like a breath trying to form one. The paramedic kneeling beside her leans in closer, adjusting the blanket tighter around her shoulders. I've got you, he murmurs. Stay with me, okay? Her small hand moves, barely, but it reaches, not toward them, toward me. I step forward instinctively, but an officer gently stops me halfway. Give them space, he says, not unkindly. I nod, even though every part of me wants to go to her. Behind me, I hear it, the shift, metal against metal. I turn just enough to see one officer guiding my dad's hands behind his back. Not rough, not aggressive, but final. "What are you doing?" My dad snaps, trying to twist around. "This is my house. Sir, you're being detained while we sort this out." My mom's voice rises, sharper now, cracking at the edges. "Detained? For what? This is insane." The woman with the folder finally speaks again, her tone calm but unmovable. "For repeated endangerment," she says, "and tonight makes it immediate." My mom freezes, not arguing this time, just staring. I feel it then, the moment everything tips past the point of fixing. The officers move with quiet efficiency, guiding both of them away from the center of the room. My dad keeps looking back, like if he stares long enough, he can reverse it. My mom doesn't look at anything at all, and through all of it, Elvira stays wrapped in those blankets, small and shaking, her eyes barely open but still searching for me. The woman steps closer to me now, lowering her voice slightly. "Sylvia," she says, like she already knows me, "we're going to need you to come with us too, just to talk." I nod slowly, because I already knew this part was coming. What I didn't know, what none of them expected, was how fast everything would fall apart once the door finally opened. By morning, the house didn't feel like ours anymore. Strangers moved through every room, quiet, methodical, documenting everything. Drawers opened, photos taken, notes written. The same walls that had held everything in for years were now giving it all up without resistance. I sat on the edge of the couch, a blanket around my shoulders that I didn't remember anyone giving me. Across from me, Elvira was wrapped in two more, sitting between a paramedic and the woman from Child Protective Services. She looked smaller somehow, like the night had taken something out of her, but she was awake. That was enough. Her eyes found me again, slower this time, but steadier. I moved closer, careful, sitting beside her. She didn't say anything, just reached for my hand and held it tight. "You didn't leave me," she whispered, her voice thin but clear. I shook my head. "I'm right here." Behind us, one of the officers walked past, speaking quietly into his radio. "Parents are in custody, charges pending, child endangerment, possible neglect history. Will confirm with prior reports." Prior reports. That's what the woman meant. It didn't start last night. I'd been documenting it for months. Every time they locked Elvira in her room for hours, every time they withheld meals and called it discipline, every time she cried herself to sleep and they ignored it like background noise. I kept track of it all, dates, times, recordings when I could, not because I knew exactly what to do, but because I knew someday I'd have to prove it. The first time I reached out, nothing happened. They said they needed more, something immediate, something undeniable. Last night became that moment. When they dragged her outside over a spilled drink, when the door locked, when the temperature kept dropping and they sat down to eat like it was normal, I made the call. Not after, not later, while it was happening. That's why they came so fast. That's why they didn't hesitate. Across the room, the front door opened again. Two officers stepped inside, speaking to the CPS worker in low voices. She nodded, then turned towards me. "Sylvia," she said gently, "we've arranged temporary placement. You and Elvira will stay together." I exhaled, not realizing I'd been holding that in all night. Together. That was the only part that mattered. Outside, I caught a glimpse through the window. Neighbors standing in small clusters, watching, whispering. The same people who waved at my parents, who thought they knew what our house was like. Now they knew something else, and inside there was nothing left to hide. My parents were gone, taken out hours ago. No arguments left that anyone was listening to. Whatever control they had over the house, over us, ended the second that door opened. I stood up slowly, helping Elvira to her feet. She leaned into me, still weak, but steady enough to walk. We moved toward the doorway together, the same one she had stood behind the night before, knocking, crying, waiting. Now it was open. Cold air still drifted in, but it didn't feel the same, because this time she wasn't on the outside. I tightened my grip on her hand as we stepped forward. "They thought locking her out would teach her something," I said quietly, more to myself than anyone else. I looked ahead, not back. But it was the last thing they ever got to decide.
If that call hadn't been made right then, who would have ever known what was happening behind that door? And how many other doors are stayed closed just long enough?